Welcome to Career Happy Hour, everybody. It's Andrew Beach, Executive Career Coach. I help professionals like you communicate your value to find great opportunity faster. That's whether you're working or not. Today, I'm super excited. I had some prepared things that I was going to put together, but I really wanted to shift gears this week, if that's okay. By the way, this is free career coaching. If you want to have a question answered by me, go ahead and put it in the chat over on the side. I'll go through that. I've been having some issues with the streaming service, so I just wanted to make sure that I got your questions answered. Use the hashtag that you see above, Career Happy Hour. This is free coaching. I'm here every Friday, 3 o'clock. You're welcome to invite your friends. In fact, there's a little share button down below. Wherever you're joining us from. See, I'm multi-streaming on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook in my group, and here on LinkedIn. So please tell me where you're joining from and what questions you have. I'm happy to answer. I'm going to pull those up on my mobile device here shortly. So let me know if you can hear me okay as well. And any questions you have, please put those in the chat. I have a exciting thing that I'm going to do here probably for the next 6 to 10 weeks. If I get your input, that's okay. Okay, excellent. So welcome everyone. Today we're really going to talk through one of my favorite books. And this is something that I ran into a while back. And you're welcome to buy the book. I'm not forcing you to buy the book, but what I noticed is this book is out of print. It's from the late 90s, and it's an opportunity for us to have an audio version of that by me actually reading it to you. So I'll offer some input, but here it is. It is, ooh, look at that. The green screen is taking it away. So it's interesting. So yellow, I guess, doesn't show up on the green screen. But anyway, it's a National Business Employment Weekly book on networking. It's something I highly recommend. It's one of the best how-to books on networking. I've got a whole bookcase full of books that tell me why I should be networking. They don't all give me a nuts and bolts networking strategy to execute ABC 1, 2, 3, meaning much like a recipe. I need a recipe on actually how to do this networking thing. So if you have any questions about that, I'm going to put, when I'm done with this, I'll put a link to where you can get this book. It's on Amazon. It's used. I think you can get copies for like $1, maybe $2, and the shipping is like $8. So, I mean, it's weird. The shipping and handling is more than the cost of the book. So today, really, we're going to be covering the intro and the foreword. So keep that in mind as we go through here. We're going to go ahead and read the book. I'll offer you some insights from my perspective. And then any questions you have, go ahead and leave those in the chat. I'm happy to answer. I don't see any in there right now. So let's go right into the book. So this book was published, let's see. Oh, I think it's the late 90s, 1994, actually. So I got this book right after I got out of college. I had started my first job at Columbia Sportswear, and I was really looking. I knew that networking was the way to go. I just didn't know how to do it. And I started reading a whole bunch of books on how to do networking, how to do job search out of college, all those things. That's back in the early 90s. And this book, of the ones that I've read since, is probably the best at laying it out. It is circa 1994, which is right when email came online. I don't think that Indeed.com was even established, or Monster.com even. So a lot of the stuff that you'll hear in here has to do with people taking steps. And so let's start with the foreword. This is written by, let's see, Douglas B. Richardson. The Wall Street Journal National Business Employment Weekly Networking book, published by John Wiley. So here's the foreword. Trying to find a better job by calling people you don't know and asking them for help probably sounds dreadful. I know it did to me. Like a cross between telemarketing and door-to-door sales. You ever feel that way? After all, nobody likes rejection, and this approach is sure to provoke a rash of apologies and unreturned phone calls. All perfectly normal. But what if it works? It's a good question. What if it works? What if you can find a great new job or project if you're a consultant or someone looking to freelance, simply by meeting with acquaintances and strangers who agree to see you. Would you try it? The premise behind networking, the practice of contacting everyone you know and everyone they know to ask for advice and support, is that it does work. The statistics show that, and I'll share some of those with you here in this book, and also an article by Lou Adler here in just a second. A recent survey of more than 1,500 successful job hunters showed that 61% found new positions by tapping their networks of friends. 61%. Family members, acquaintances, and others willing to help. Recognize that a lot of people here on LinkedIn, they're willing to help you. In comparison, 18% found jobs by answering ads, in this case online postings, and only 2% by sending unsolicited resumes to a company, recruiters, according to Drake B. Moran, DBM, a New York-based career consulting firm. The percentage of successful networkers is higher in towns and industries where everyone seems to know everyone else. The key to networking is learning how to approach others without triggering their nuisance alarm. Doug Richardson's approach is effective because he understands the process thoroughly, including the potential negatives, and has counseled hundreds of job hunters on the strategies that work best for their specific situations. In this well-researched, finely written book that's full of relevant anecdotes and case studies, Doug explains why an effective networking relationship helps both parties. Contacts typically enjoy talking about themselves, and if they can match you with a position somewhere, they're doing you a favor they hope will be returned one day. That's called paying it forward. That's why networking is the business world's best example of a win-win relationship. Tony Lee, editor of the National Business Employment Weekly, wrote that forward. Okay, that brings us to the introduction. Any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer. I think this is 4 or 5 pages of introduction. Introduction, the technique job seekers love to hate. This book almost failed to see the light of day. Some publishers wondered whether there was enough theory to networking to justify a whole book on the subject. Others questioned whether networking was just a fad, well on its way to becoming a cliche. Even some job seekers complained that networking successfully could be intensely frustrating, while potential employers occasionally labeled it a devious, much abused pretext for outflanking their defenses and hitting them up for a job. You can see that Doug Richardson has a sense of humor, and it shows in his writing. The editors of the National Business Employment Weekly stood their ground. Since 1981, this Dow Jones publication has been advising candidates on job market trends, as well as on tips and techniques for becoming former job seekers. In those years, NBAW has learned something. Whatever networking is, it works. Despite being abused, maligned, or misunderstood, networking has proven to be the most productive technique for getting job market exposure, unearthing opportunities, and landing employment. Year in and year out, about 60% of all positions are filled as a consequence of informal, interpersonal contact, according to national surveys by groups such as the Association of Outplacement Consulting Firms and the American Management Association. The National Business Employment Weekly continues to champion networking, and in its editor's view, a series of books bearing the NBEW name could hardly fail to include a volume on the subject. Actually, both sides are right. When carried out in a structured, systematic way, networking is a super effective method of getting job market exposure and gathering useful information. On the other hand, there's no denying these facts. Number one, the information gathered by networking is informal, anecdotal, potentially biased, and frequently distorted or incomplete. That's a good point. Many times we do our networking and we get some information from somebody and we could consider it gospel. So don't consider it a data point and not gospel. Number two, the world of gossip is completely disorganized and unpredictable. Months of networking activity may produce little useful information. Then a snatch of conversation overheard at an airport may lead directly to the job of a lifetime. The fundamental principle behind successful networking is familiar. What goes around comes around. The corollary states that a lot of going around may happen before anything comes around. Even more frustrating is the fact that no advance notice tells when job leads are going to come around. A meeting that seemed a total waste of time in August may produce an exciting phone call in November. I just heard of an opportunity that immediately made me think of you. This book won't advance the proposition that networking is enjoyable. Those who find networking a lot of fun and a real mind expander should expect the scorn optimist always encounter. Even skilled networkers often find the process stressful. I can appreciate that too. That's absolutely spot on. And networking certainly isn't a science or even an innovative approach to the age-old task of finding meaningful employment. Networking is about human nature in action, and we all know that human nature is subjective, irrational, and frequently unfair. In other words, it's a long way from the rationality and objectivity of science. There's no claim of discovery here. We're talking about an approach of securing employment that existed long before anybody chose to make a pop phenomenon out of it by hanging the networking label around its neck. People have been banging on their relatives, friends, and acquaintances for help in finding work since Og was thrown out of the mastodon hauling business in the invention of the wheel. The book is simply a cookbook, a user's guide of a self-marketing approach that, frankly, most job seekers don't do very well. The main purpose of the following pages is to be practical. I like that. To give straight talk in plain English, who, what, where, when, and how. As we dissect the whys and wherefores of networking, we'll periodically poke fun at it to keep ourselves from becoming pompous and unduly serious. Networking needn't be made into more than it is. We can laugh at its excesses, twist it, fold it, or make a funny party hat out of it. It will still outstrip any other job search technique. There's nothing magic about the word networking. If a little irreverence will make you feel more comfortable, frame the word in oral quotation marks. Whenever you utter it, Joe, this is Doug. I wonder if I might arrange to get together for one of those, networking meetings. If the conversation is face-to-face, you can add little quotation mark gestures in the air with your hands. Try it. It drives the phobia away. I like that. If you have any questions, again, put those in the chat. Who should use this book? Every job seeker. This book is written primarily for them, although the ideas and techniques described herein will work equally well for developing information power once you land your new job. In fact, everyone at every level in the working world, whether looking for work or not, and whether realizing it or not, is constantly networking as a way of staying on top of things and creating useful connections. Anyone running a conventional job search, that is, looking for a job that's a logical extension of a prior career, will find plenty of networking advice here. A variety of techniques can be used in addition to networking. Answering ads. In that case, that would be Indeed.com, which currently exists, or even here on LinkedIn. Trying to catch the attention of recruiters and headhunters, and trying to make direct contact with potential employers, usually by sending a cover letter with a resume attached. However, most pie charts depicting the relative effectiveness of job search techniques say that ads fill no more than about 20% of all openings. Recruiters, headhunters, and other broker types probably fill half that amount, and no more than 5% are filled via mass mailings, targeted letters, and other forms of direct contact. About 2/3 of all conventional jobs get filled, according to the Department of Labor, in informal ways, through gossip, word of mouth, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and behind-the-scenes favors. The methods that people use to tap into this wellspring of information and create job market exposure for themselves are not new. Even though there's LinkedIn, that's not new. In recent years, the word networking has come into fashion to describe them. For anyone making a major change in career direction or emphasis, the ability to build and draw on informal interpersonal networks is absolutely essential. None of the other conventional job search techniques, ads, headhunters, or direct contact, works very well for career changers. Ads slot conventionally credentialed people into conventionally defined roles. Makes sense. Career changers represent a risk most employers are hesitant to make. This is doubly true with headhunters who collect large fees to reduce employers' hiring risks. Headhunters don't take chances on untried, untested possibilities. They avoid career changers like the plague. Direct contact doesn't work much better for career changers than for anyone else. The inescapable conclusion is that networking is the only job search technique that works for people who are making a major shift in job role or setting. Networking ability is crucial. 1, for consultants starting new practices. 2, for entrepreneurs looking for financial angels, co-venturers, or qualified colleagues. 3, for anyone marketing ideas, programs, or concepts. 4, for anyone operating in the political arena. Lobbying is no more than licensed networking. 5, for anyone in a setting where whom you know is as important as what you know. You are one of these people who think that cultivating connections is somehow illicit or sleazy. That's all of life's activities should be conducted in pure merit, and that networking is a technique for creating privilege or unfair advantage. Are you uncomfortable about trying to work the angles? Networking isn't about angles. It's about creating access to opportunity. You can't win if you don't play, and you can't play if you don't know where the game is. Throughout this book, we'll be talking about techniques, not about manipulation, deception, or selling someone a false bill of goods. We'll work on the most effective ways to build rapport and trust, and to present an undistorted picture of your strengths and virtues. In focusing on predictable patterns of human nature, our purpose is to communicate you, to show how to make yourself understood. Done right, networking is fundamentally collaborational. Done wrong, networking adds to the abusive practices that have made many potentially valuable contacts defensive and suspicious. In one's working life, finding a fit is more important than merely landing a job, and the informal aspects of interpersonal relationships frequently decide whether there is a fit. If a job seeker shades the truth and creates an unrealistic picture of himself or herself as a product simply to attract job offers, 2 things will happen when he gets an offer and accepts the job. 1, the employer will soon see he didn't get what he bargained for, and that will make him mad. 2, the employer will realize that the job seeker deliberately fudged the truth, and that will make him madder. His trust in his new employee will be permanently destroyed. No trust, no fit, and before long, no job. Play the devil's advocate as you read this book. Turn up your skepticism and keep asking 3 fundamental questions. 1, does this stuff make sense? 2, will it work in the real world? 3, can I learn to do it without stumbling or blushing? Long before you turn the last page, you'll conclude that the editors of the National Business Employment Weekly were right. You can make networking the most effective tool in your job search arsenal. That brings us to Chapter 1, which we will hit next week. And I recognize that there's a handful of folks joining us here today. I really do appreciate that. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. Put those in the chat. I don't see any currently. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Anyone out there? Questions? Thanks for joining me. I'll put the link to the book here in just a second. You can also check out my podcast. We haven't released a new episode this week. Scott and I will be actually working on Saturday to put together some new episodes, and we'll have some new episodes out next Wednesday. All right, folks, thank you for joining me on this Career Happy Hour Friday. Every Friday, 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time, I will be here. Oh, the other thing I was going to share with you was this article by Lou Adler, and I guess I can put that in the live stream here. But I found it really, really interesting in that he kind of echoed some of the things that we've been talking about. So I'll put the link to that over here in the chat. You're happy to provide me any questions, give me some insights here. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'll go ahead and look for the I'll look for the link to the Amazon book so that you can get a copy if you want. It's honestly, let me see if there's any used copies here. Yeah, there's 28 used copies on Amazon starting at $1.95. 516 with free shipping. I mean, there's a lot of really good copies for you to pick up. And then we can go through this together as a community. It's literally one of the best networking books that I've come across. So I will, let's see if I can, there we go. All right, I'll put this link in the chat as well, and I'll put it in the notes here. Edit post. Networking book. Save that. Good. All right, folks, have a good weekend. We'll see you next FAQ Friday Career Happy Hour. Be well.